A warm welcome to my channel. Today we are going to start off with the chapter of election and representation. Have you ever played chess? So this is talking about basically that if you don't have a system while playing chess, will you be able to do the job neatfully and carefully? No, you will not be able to do. So the rules have to be agreed upon. That is why everybody can play. Otherwise, some people who do not like this game because of its rules, it cannot be. So this is the basic consensus that has to be received, and the game should be played in an impartial manner. So the election system in our country should also be in this case of like a chess game. No impartiality, no partiality should be there. Okay, so this game in election is called electoral politics related to the election in our country. This cannot be any way manipulated by the government. These are the basic necessities that are to be there in a democratic country. So let us study in this chapter what we are going to study. You can see here it's written different methods of election, the characteristics of the system of elections adopted in our country, that is India, the importance of the provisions for free and fair elections. Like free means no money is required for elections, especially who are voting or casting their vote, but yes, the contestants have to pay a huge price. Now the fair elections means it should not be impartial. We have a election commissioner that should be impartial in nature. And now lastly, the debate, we will make a debate on electoral reforms. We may divide the videos as per our convenience, okay, so that it becomes not too long. Okay, now you can see here elections and democracy. Now what is the meaning of elections? Like electing our head who will lead us, electing our leader. So this is the basic concept. Now what is democracy? In liberal democracy systems in our country, we do see that there is a system of free and fair elections. So elections are there in many countries. It may be in authoritarian states and also totalitarian states, but elections in democracies are like celebrations. People, when our first election was held in our country, people used to celebrate it. Okay, it was a matter of celebration. Now we have become a mature democracy. So see this thing, can we have democracy without holding elections? Because democracy means elected representatives will be allotted in the parliament, and they will make the policies, and they will rule or lead our country for better development. Now if there is no elections, can we elect a leader of our choice? No. So next, can we hold elections without having democracy? So in a democracy, we need to have elections. If there are no elections, then no democracies. Democracy is only established when people have the ultimate power. People have the ultimate power to change the government. People have the right to criticize the government and take part in the political process in this manner. So you can see elections, this is a picture cartoon given. So this is a picture showing that everyone is running behind money. So this is not a good type of democracy. Okay, it shows that it is a carnival, and carnival is not a celebration right away. Okay, now all citizens cannot take part in the decision making process. Now if supposedly a law is there, every time if we see there is a referendum that some people are saying we will bring this laws, then this process will not be just, because we cannot reach everyone in the country separately. So it will be time consuming and expensive altogether. So whenever we think of India as a democracy, we need to have a turn to our elections. Election is the symbol of the democratic processes. Okay, now in a direct democracy, here we have a term called a direct democracy, where citizens participate directly in the election process. Okay, they give day-to-day decision making. It is just like a referendum. Okay, in many areas of ancient Greece we can see this. And local governments, gram sabhas, local, at the local level, the government means a body. I have explained in the previous videos that the government means a body which is making, not only making day-to-day policies, but also it is doing all the works. And this local level, and we have a national level government, we have a district level, local level, state government also. Now this local governments are called gram panchayats or gram sabhas. They are the direct link of the democracy. Now they have a direct election. Okay, so in a place, suppose a district A is there, but you cannot make a huge referendum when it is considering of lakhs and millions of people. So for the millions of people you need to make a representative arrangement, so that one representative will represent a whole state or a district according to the population. So that's why we need it. Now what do the citizens do in this case, in this arrangement of the elected representative system? Now arrangement, citizens choose their representatives who are actively involved in administering the country. Now in order to choose a leader, you have to keep in mind the moral value of the leader, the morality, the works he or she has done, the development. So you need to keep in mind. So you need to have an alert citizenship in a democracy. Okay, the methods to choose are referred to as elections. So we are choosing our elected representatives through an election. Okay, now citizens have a limited role in major decisions, like they choose the leaders who in turn make the decisions, and this is not the directly the decision of the people, but the decision of the leaders they choose. Okay, now citizens are indirectly involved. That means they are not directly formulating policies through meetings, speeches, deliberations, but they are choosing the leaders who in turn are doing this works. Now the method by which people elect their representatives is very important for the functioning of the democracy. Okay, now one non-democratic elections means manipulated elections, in which people's opinion is not given favor. Okay, and the leaders, the manipulative leaders, they do what they want. Okay, now how do you distinguish between a democratic and non-democratic elections? Now in order to see who is eligible to vote, there are many fake votes, so you need to see who are eligible to vote. The basic rules of electing a representative is also important. Okay, now see what we will see. Who is eligible to vote, who is eligible to contest, the age, the limitations, there can be educational qualifications as well. Now who is to supervise those elections? An independent body should be there. How do the voters choose their representative, directly or indirectly? We will discuss all this. Now how are the votes to be counted and representatives elected? Okay, now how votes should be counted in a free and impartial manner, right? Now in all democratic institutions these are the questions, and I have told you the election should be free and fair, then only it can be called democratic in nature. So we move on to the election system in India. So what is the election system in India? See that there is, before an election you have seen there is campaigning in the elections, both post and pre. Okay, now this is called electioneering. So this campaigning is called electioneering. This is an important term. Okay, now constitution, in our constitution we have a provision of this, we have a provision of the elections. Our constitution is so large because we have not only provisions for elections and for also the reservations too. Okay, now in a democratic election people vote based on their preference, and based on the public opinion there the leaders are elected. Okay, now we will see that there can be many different ways on which the preference can be counted. This preference means whom you prefer, which party or politician would you vote for. So some rules can favor big parties, some rule can help smaller parties. So there are different types of systems that can help. Okay, now we will see the different. First is the first past the post system. Okay, पहली बार कांग्रेस की 3/4 बहुमत, that means Congress has won 3/4 of the election votes. Now it talks of one of the historic movement in the newspaper clipping from this time period of 1984, in which the Congress party got more than 80% of the seats. Okay, 3/4 seats. Now we will understand how they got 3/4 seats, how they got 80% of the votes. And you can see out of 543 they got 454 Lok Sabha seats in the Lok Sabha elections. Now there were some basic questions. We'll read them and understand. See, this girl is like haphazard. She is shocked because less than 50% votes and more than 80% seats. Is that fair? Now this system has some of the demerits also. Now we will understand how Congress got 50% votes but 80% seats. So in the Lok Sabha elections of the 1984. Now the Congress party, as we can see, 3/4 of the elections, you can see in the newspaper clipping it's given. Now 3/4 of the elections, does that mean 4 out of every 5 Indian voted for the Congress party? Not, because if we see this thing, if we see this properly, you can see the percentage of votes, like percentage of people voting in India for the Congress out of the 100%, right? Out of 100% of the votes, Congress got 48% of the votes. Okay, now 48% of people who voted in favor of the Congress. Okay, that means that. And but the party still managed to win more than 80% of the seats. You can see only 48% and more than 80% of the seats. Now you can see the BJP that got only 7.4% of the votes and got 2 seats. And here you can see the Janata Dal, they got the 6.7, even lesser than the BJP, but they got more seats. Now why is this happening? See, there is a beautiful explanation here. The entire country is divided into 543 constituencies. That means each area in our country is specified that this is a constituency. Here people will vote for this party's candidates. Okay, now each constituency elects one. Constituency is the place from where the elections takes place, from the leaders of different various parties in India get elected. Okay, they stand for election, they get tickets. Now each constituency elects one representative. Okay, now and there are 543 Lok Sabha seats, so there are 543 constituencies also. The candidate who secures the highest number of votes is declared elected supposedly in a constituency, not 543. I'm taking the basic one constituency. The leaders of supposedly this all parties are there. Now one of them who gets the most majority of the votes, okay, like from 100%, the Congress in a district or in a constituency gets 50% of the votes, and other parties, they are divided. Now the Congress participant or Congress contestant or party leader will win in that constituency. So it is important to note that in this system, whoever has more votes than other candidates is declared elected. Now we have to pass the post. You can see the first you need to pass. So the first who has passed, the Congress has passed the post. Okay, Now let's see more about this. And the winning candidate doesn't secure a majority of the votes. Now you don't need to get 50% of the votes. You can see they have got how much percent? 48, but still they have got 80% and they have passed the post. Okay, and this is called the first past the post system. Okay, you need not to secure 50%. Okay, you need to secure more than the other candidates. Even if you secure 30%, other candidates who do not secure more than 30%, then you will obviously win. Okay, so this is the candidate who is ahead of other crosses the winning post first, and there is no percentage to pass this post. It can be 50%, it can be 20, 30% also. Now this method of election is prescribed by our constitution. Now let's move back to this example. I have told you, see the crucial differences that are coming. Okay, so you can say this is unfair to some extent. The Congress party won greater share of seats than its share of votes, because in many of the constituencies in which its candidates won, they secured less than 50% of the votes. Okay, now we have seen that in a constituency, I have told you, we need not to secure a majority of votes, so they also didn't secure 50% of the votes. In some constituencies they secured less than 50% and in some others more than 50%. Okay, now see this. So as I've told you, it's the realistic. No party can win 50% seats in each constituency. So even if it won less or more, so you can see here only 48%, means half the population of the country was not willing in its favor, but still it formed the government. So the party could win with only 25%, 30%, any seats less than, but it had to be more than his or her competitors or parties. Now we come to the second method, proportional representation. Now Israel, it takes place in Israel. In Israel, once the votes are counted, each party is allotted the share of the seats in the parliament in proportion to this share. Now if a party gets 30% vote, he or she gets the seat in that same way, not unlike this system. This system has some flaws, so it can be sometimes unfair. Okay, so there are waste votes also, but in this case it removes those things in proportional representation. Now each party fills its quota of seats by picking those many of its nominees from the preference list that has been declared before the elections. Now there is a preference system. Okay, now each party nominates its members that if we won the election in this constituency, these are our party members who are going to be nominated there in the offices. So this system of elections is called proportional representation. Okay, it gets the same proportion. Now like if you get 50% of the seats, many seats are of yours. Okay, and if you get 50% of the seat, that doesn't mean you will get, if you get 50% of the vote share, that doesn't mean you will get 80% of the seats. That happened in this case, and here it removes that disadvantage. Now in this proportional system there can be two variations, so we will take country wise. In Israel or Netherlands, let us see, the entire country is treated as one constituency and seats are allocated to each party based on elections. For example, there are 100 votes and people, I think there is an example, yes, we will see that. So let us understand this first. Like we have 543 constituencies, but they have only one constitution, the nation as a whole. Okay, now the other method is when the country is divided into several multi-member constituencies, as in Argentina and Portugal. Each party prepares a list of candidates for each constituency. I have told you, if they win, they are already doing the preference list, whom to nominate. In both these variations, voters exercise their preference for a party and not a candidate. Okay, now the voters are also sometimes given, so there are some preference lists. So this party, see, I will vote first for example, here I am coming there. Okay, now first preference to the Congress. second preference to the BJPs, third to the CPI, and this all again fourth to the Janata. So if this one voter gives this preference, second voter, first is BJP, then is Congress, then is Lokdal, then is CPI, then is AGU. So we have seen that in this way people give the vote not for a party but for the candidate in that constituency. Okay, and the member will obviously belong to some party, right? Now representatives from a constituency would be belonging to different parties. I've showed you. In India, we have adopted the PR system on a limited scale for indirect elections. Okay, this is a bit complex. This is for the vice president and the election of the Rajya Sabha and Vidhan Parishad members. Okay, system of proportional representation. Now come back to proportional representation in Israel. Now elections to the legislature takes place every 4 years. This is a brief info about the elections in Israel, and this is very interesting. See, takes place every 4 years. Our 5 years. So I'm just differentiating. Okay, that's very important. Every party declares a list of its candidates, but voters vote for the party and not for the candidates. And here they vote for the candidates and not for the party. Okay, a party gets seats in the legislature in proportion to the votes polled by it. So a party, supposedly in a legislature, a party gets more votes, so more seats. This allows even smaller parties with small support to get representation in the legislation. Okay, so a minimum of, you can see there is a restriction, 3.25% of the votes of the total vote should be in favor of the party so that it gets a seat, in order to get one seat at least. This leads to a multi-party coalition government because no power can get more than the votes they acquire, vote percentage they acquire. So you can see here, see Likud party 23.40, so 30 seats are there. So in this way there are many parties and you can see the number of votes and number of seats. There is a high chance of a coalition government. Okay, now this is the difference between the first past the post system and proportional representation system. I've told you everything of this. This point is a different thing. These examples of two have explained. Now candidates who won the election may not get the majority of the seats, but who wins the election must get the majority of the seats in proportional representation. And you can see proportional representation in Israel is a bit different. See, they have not got 50% of the seats, so they cannot form the government. They have to make a coalition government because they have got only 23% of the seats, and it's impossible for a party to get more than 50% of the seats. It's possible, but it's rare. So there is a high chance of a coalition government. Okay, now let us come to India. In India also we have the Rajya Sabha elections where there is an electoral college also in case of the vice presidential elections. We will see how it works there. Okay, now let us begin. Now see that the single transferable vote system is followed for the Rajya Sabha elections. So this is done by simple formula of total votes polled by the total number of candidates. For example, you can see the example I will show you here. See, there are, how many votes are there, how many MLAs are there, you will have to write here 200 MLAs. How many have to be elected? 4. So you need to add 1, so you get 40 plus 1, that is 41 votes. Now you see there are 41 votes, so this is the minimum quota of votes, 41 votes, the minimum quota of votes that the MLA has to secure in order to get elected to the Rajya Sabha in that respective state. Understand? Now to declare, we need to declare winner. There are many MLAs just like the Lok Sabha candidates, so it is done on the basis of a preference system. I've told you that this proportional representation system is a preferential system. Now if 41 votes, and now if a candidate gets 41 votes, then he is declared the winner from of this elections, okay, in that specific constituency. But if he doesn't get 41%, even 40 votes, then also there will be a preferential system. Then the one person who has got the lowest amount of votes will get disqualified, and his votes will be transferred equally on the basis of again preferences. Okay, again elections will be done, second elections. There the each party leader or each party will show its preferences for the candidates. Elected leaders obviously will show their preferences for the candidates, and on that basis the votes will be divided. Okay, I hope you can understand. Okay, now until the winner is declared, the voting elections is going on and on. Okay, now elections. Now lastly, one thing happens that there are only two candidates left. So one who has secured the more number of votes will get obviously elected. Now there are reasons why we adopt this system. Okay, now we have seen that it is a very complicated procedure because it seems that the elections are unending. It will be difficult to work in a subcontinent like India. Okay, it is success because of its simplicity. The entire election system is simple so that the common voters can understand without any specialized complex information about it. The preference system, these are easy systems. Okay, and it is a clear choice. It also shows transparency in the voting system. If you make a system of voting so complex that half of the population, majority of the people cannot understand, it will not work in a democratic system at least. This system offers a voters a choice not between parties but also specific candidates, because the candidates are elected from a specific constituency, right? Now especially the systems, they choose a party, this proportional represent choose a party, and the representatives are based on the party list. This party list means the preference system of each party, that this is our candidate from this particular constituency. Now there is no representative who represents and is responsible for one locality. In constituency based system, the voters know their representative and can hold their accountable. Okay, they will have to answer. Now see, more importantly, the makers of the constitution felt that this may not be suitable for a stable government, because if there we have seen the proportional representation, there are high chances of a coalition government, and coalition government means there are different views, there are the working will be just like a chaos. So if there is not a dominating a party holding a position that is strong enough to keep the government stable, so that's important. Okay, so we have seen that it will not produce a clear majority, there will be high chances of coalition government, right? Now we come to this part of the first past the post system. We have seen that even if the voters don't get the maximum number of votes, they get many number of seats. So this is why it is done. It's so unfair, right? Now why it's done? Because to encourage voters from different groups to come together, win an election. So it uses integrity, so there are not many divisions in the country on the basis of party, otherwise there will be many parties. So we will then don't have a nationwide party. Okay, so for this only the constitution makers have introduced this system. Now we come that it has helped how the FPT, now first past the post system, how it has helped, why it was done, we are doing that part. Okay, now has proved to be simple and familiar to ordinary voters, and it helps to win clear majorities at the center so that there are no coalition governments. Okay, now normally the working of this system results in two-party system. There are two major competitors, they share their power alternatively. Now in our country right now we have the like BJP and the Congress. So they are the nation party that I know, they are national base, they have a national base, So these are two competitors, and these other parties, they find it increasingly difficult to compete with them. Okay, now it's after independence we adopted the FPTP. There emerged a one party dominance. Many smaller parties were there. Now after 1989 we came to the multi-party coalitions. Okay, now multi-party coalitions means several parties from a particular area, they come together and say that we are joining hands with these parties and we are going to defeat the person who has got majority of the votes. This can also happen now, but the distinguishing feature is that the rise of coalition had made it possible actually to make the smaller parties enter into electoral competition. So there is no two-party dominance actually. So I have told you this problem. So this problem is if the parties come to a basic consensus of their ideas, okay, then they can hold elections and they may even win. Now reservation of constituencies. Now we have noticed that in this system the candidate, whenever I'm saying this system, we are telling that it is FPTP system. Remember, the candidate who secures the highest number of votes is declared elected. Okay, and this is disadvantageous to the social small groups which do not get a voice even if they are taking part in the elections. Okay, now we have a history of caste based discrimination in the election systems. Okay, we have seen there are dominant caste groups who can win everywhere, and they are oppressing the social groups which are small in nature. They represent the interests of various tribal people or scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So they remain unrepresented because they have no, and increasingly day by day we have the use of muscle and money power in our politics. Now elections are becoming very costly, you can say. Okay, now this has discriminated because the poor section, they are fighting for their rights. They want representation in the political process directly, but still we are not, people are not voting them because they lack this resources, this money and muscle power, right? And there are many other difficulties also. Now this is a separate electorate systems British had introduced. Now have been occurs to India. Some say that it has been occurred. Separate electorates have barred our progress, and now there was Muslim and Hindu electorates. Muslims will vote for the Muslim candidates and Hindus will vote for the Hindu candidates. So this is a curse because this is dividing the nation. Okay, so British used the policy of divide and rule, right? So they used at that time, but now we are not using. Okay, so that's the thing. Now I've shown you that there are large groups which are mainly affecting the elections, but there are no small groups. So what problem is there? So we, to ensure that the smaller groups, the weaker section can be given representation, we have the reservation system. Now let us begin with it. So in the Lok Sabha, by this act, an amendment in the constitution for the reservation of the seats for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, we have the reservation system, means reserving seats for a particular social group or community, okay, who are backward in nature, economically, educationally backward. Now 543 elected seats, we know 84 seats are reserved for the scheduled castes and 47 for the scheduled tribes. Okay, now who decides this, that how much seats should be reserved, on what basis it is taken? Now the decision is taken by independent bodies. So how many seats we are going to reserve for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes? So it is called the delimitation commission. You can see here it's a delimitation commission. The delimitation commission is appointed by the President of India in collaboration with the Elections Commission of India. Now the Election Commission of India is also an independent body. So independent bodies are only elected, so it is free, it is impartial, right? Now it is appointed for the purpose of drawing boundaries. So I have told you that how much quota of the constituency from an area is done,